Imagine a fruit so biologically potent, it doesn't just nourish your body. It directly interacts with hormonal pathways, reduces inflammation in your most vulnerable glands, and can quietly help men regain control over a part of life most suffer through in silence. Now, here's the twist. This fruit isn't rare. It isn't exotic. And yet, almost no one is talking about what it does for the prostate. Even though the science has been mounting for decades, we're talking about a condition that affects the majority of men over the age of 40, benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. It's the silent enlargement of the prostate, often dismissed as just aging, yet it can lead to disrupted sleep, urinary problems, reduced sexual performance, and even anxiety or depression. But what if science was already pointing us toward a natural, accessible way to support prostate health? And we've simply been ignoring it. Here's what the research shows. Certain fruits, especially one in particular, may reduce the size of the prostate, lower PSA levels, and decrease the chronic inflammation that contributes to long-term prostate dysfunction. We'll break down the specific mechanisms, from hormone regulation to antioxidant pathways, and we'll do it in plain language, not textbook jargon. Because this isn't just about biology, it's about quality of life. It's about feeling strong, clear, and in control of your body again, especially in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Today, we're going deep into one fruit that has powerful implications for prostate health. And we're pulling back the curtain on why it works, how to use it, and what else you can do to optimize this overlooked part of male health. Here's what you'll learn. The surprising role of inflammation in prostate enlargement and how this fruit interrupts it, the specific nutrient inside this fruit that affects testosterone metabolism, what happens in your body when you eat it regularly, including the changes at the cellular level, the best way to consume it for maximum benefit, timing, quantity, and form, how this fruit compares to common prostate medications without the side effects, and a simple daily protocol you can start using today to support long-term prostate function. If you're over 40 and starting to feel changes, or simply want to stay ahead of the curve, this conversation is for you. And if you're supporting someone you care about, a father, husband, brother, understanding this could be a game changer for them too. Let's dive into the science and, more importantly, the tools that can help you take back control. Let's begin with a fundamental question. Why does the prostate enlarge in the first place? For decades, the medical explanation focused almost exclusively on hormones, particularly the shift in testosterone and dihydrotestosterone, DHT, levels that happens with age. But here's what newer science is revealing. Chronic, low-grade inflammation plays a much larger role in benign prostatic hyperplasia than we once thought. In a 2006 paper published in European Urology, researchers found that more than 80% of men with BPH showed evidence of chronic inflammation in prostate tissue. And it wasn't just a side effect, it was directly involved in the growth process. Inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha stimulate the proliferation of prostate cells, essentially fueling the enlargement over time. So why does this matter? Because most treatments for prostate enlargement, including medications like alpha blockers or 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, do little to address the underlying inflammation. They work on symptoms, but the root cause remains active, quietly progressing in the background. Now here's where our powerful fruit enters the picture. Certain fruits contain natural compounds called polyphenols and phytosterols, both known for their anti-inflammatory effects. Polyphenols are known for being protective, and phytosterols, both known for their anti-inflammatory effects. But one fruit in particular stands out in prostate research, the pomegranate. Pomegranate extract has been shown to suppress inflammatory markers in prostate tissue and even slow the proliferation of cancerous prostate cells in lab models. A 2008 pilot study published in Clinical Cancer Research observed that drinking 8 ounces of pomegranate juice daily significantly slowed the rise of PSA levels in men with recurrent prostate cancer, a a strong indicator of its anti-inflammatory and anti-proliferative effects. But the benefits aren't limited to cancer. Even in non-cancerous enlargement, the pomegranate, especially ellagic acid and punicalagin, modulate key inflammatory pathways. They inhibit NF-κB, a master regulator of inflammation, which is often overactive in prostate disorders. You might be wondering, what's actually happening in your body when you consume something like pomegranate? Think of inflammation like a slow, smoldering fire inside the prostate. Over time, that fire creates swelling, stiffness, and dysfunction. What pomegranate does, thanks to its dense concentration of bioactive compounds, is pour water on that fire. It doesn't just mask the heat, it lowers the temperature at the molecular level, making the tissue environment less reactive and more stable. And here's a simple tool to apply. Add 1 small glass, 6 to 8 ounces, of 100% pure pomegranate juice to your morning or evening routine, ideally with a meal. Doing so helps buffer blood sugar spikes while delivering anti-inflammatory compounds in a form your gut can absorb effectively. And if you prefer, pomegranate extract capsules, standardized to punicalagin content, are also widely available and show similar biological activity in trials. Now, this isn't a miracle cure, nothing is, but if inflammation is the fuel behind prostate enlargement, then pomegranate is one of the few natural agents that actively removes that fuel while offering benefits to your heart, blood vessels, and cognitive function as well. If this insight is helping you rethink how to approach prostate health, consider subscribing. There's more where this came from. This channel is dedicated to helping you understand the science that directly improves your quality of life. Now we'll explore another breakthrough finding: how pomegranate affects testosterone and DHT metabolism, the very hormones that shape prostate growth in the first place. Let's talk about hormones, specifically the testosterone-DHT connection. As men age, it's common to experience a decline in overall testosterone levels. But here's where it gets interesting. The conversion of testosterone into DHT, dihydrotestosterone, actually increases in some tissues, especially in the prostate. This is driven by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase, which transforms testosterone into the more potent DHT. And DHT is a powerful growth signal for the prostate. In fact, it's the primary driver behind prostate enlargement in middle age and older men. Think of it like fertilizer for prostate cells. Too much DHT and growth accelerates. This is why many pharmaceutical treatments for BPH, like finasteride, work by inhibiting 5-alpha reductase, reducing DHT levels. But these drugs come with downsides: sexual dysfunction, mood changes, and sometimes even cognitive issues. Now here's the surprising part. Pomegranate naturally inhibits 5-alpha reductase without the harsh side effects. A 2012 study published in Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that specific compounds in pomegranate, including ellagitannins, reduce the activity of this enzyme. In simple terms, consuming pomegranate may help reduce the conversion of testosterone to DHT in the prostate, lowering the hormonal signal that causes overgrowth. But it doesn't stop there. In a small but fascinating study from Queen Margaret University in the UK, men who drank pomegranate juice daily for 2 weeks saw a significant increase in salivary testosterone levels, up to 24% in some individuals. At the same time, participants reported improved mood, energy, and a mild boost in libido. So what this study found was that people who drank salivary set a dentist to press their tongue, and then what's happening here? Researchers believe the antioxidant-rich environment created by pomegranate reduces oxidative stress in the Leydig cells, the cells in the testes that produce testosterone. Lower oxidative stress means better hormonal output, which helps maintain healthy testosterone levels naturally. So instead of blocking hormones outright, as medications often do, pomegranate seems to restore balance. It reduces excess DHT signaling in the prostate. It supports healthy testosterone levels in circulation. It lowers oxidative stress that often disrupts hormone production with age. Here's a simple protocol to apply. Try a daily cycle of pomegranate extract, 250 to 500 milligrams per day, standardized to punicalagins, for 3 to 4 weeks, followed by a 1-week break. This cycle mimics how your body naturally responds to nutrients without building tolerance and helps keep your hormone environment dynamic and responsive. An intensity of dose without building tolerance and responsive. And if you're using juice instead of capsules, make sure it's unsweetened, organic, and ideally cold pressed. Look for deep red color and minimal processing. That's where the most active compounds are preserved. This isn't about becoming more masculine or reversing aging. It's about creating hormonal harmony, giving your body what it needs to regulate itself from the inside out. If this science is helping you feel more in control of your health, feel free to hit that like button. It lets us know this kind of evidence-based content matters to you and helps us reach more people who need it. Now, we'll shift from hormones to something equally powerful: how pomegranate defends your cells at the mitochondrial level, and what that means for long-term prostate protection and energy levels. Let's go deeper, literally, into the cellular machinery that governs how well your prostate and your entire body functions with age. At the heart of every cell are mitochondria, tiny, intelligent energy generators that fuel everything from muscle contraction to hormone synthesis. They're also your first line of defense against cellular stress, especially in tissues with high metabolic activity like the prostate. But here's the challenge. As we age, mitochondrial function declines. And when mitochondria become damaged or sluggish, cells become vulnerable, not just to inflammation and hormone imbalance, but to oxidative stress. This is a key driver in both BPH and prostate cancer. In fact, several studies, including one in Free Radical Biology and Medicine, have found that oxidative damage to mitochondrial DNA is significantly higher in enlarged or cancerous prostate tissue compared to normal tissue. So where does pomegranate come in? Pomegranate is one of the most mitochondria protective fruits ever studied. It contains a rare class of polyphenols called urolithins, compounds that are not present in the fruit itself, but produced when your gut microbiome breaks down its alleged annins. One urolithin in particular, urolithin A, has been shown to stimulate a process called mitophagy, essentially a cellular cleanup mechanism that removes damaged mitochondria and encourages the growth of new healthy ones. Think of it like pruning a tree. When you remove the weak or dying branches, you make space for stronger, healthier growth. That's what mitophagy does at the cellular level. In a 2016 study published in Nature Medicine, urolithin A improved mitochondrial function and muscle strength in older animals. And the same pathways are present in prostate tissue. By enhancing mitochondrial health, pomegranate doesn't just reduce damage, it helps restore cellular efficiency and resilience. So, what does that mean for you? When your prostate cells are flooded with oxidative stress from poor diet, pollution, chronic inflammation, or aging, they start to misfire. DNA repair slows down, cells multiply erratically, and this sets the stage not just for enlargement, but long-term dysfunction. When you misfire enough that you're over-easy, you are more affected at killing off the fine-tuning DNA sequencing. So when your prostate cells are flooded with oxygen, they start to misfire. But when those same cells are supported with bioactive nutrients that recharge mitochondria and sweep away cellular debris, their ability to regulate growth and inflammation improves dramatically. Here's a simple behavioral tool. Combine pomegranate with foods or supplements that support your gut microbiome, like kefir, sauerkraut, or a broad-spectrum probiotic. Why? Because your gut bacteria are what convert pomegranate's elagitannins into urolithins. Without a healthy microbiome, you don't get the full mitochondrial benefit. And for those looking to go deeper, urolithin A is now available as a direct supplement, though it's often more expensive than whole food forms. Still, if you're struggling with fatigue, poor recovery, or signs of cellular aging, it's a tool worth exploring under metabolic guidance. Let's be clear. No single fruit can reverse decades of metabolic wear, but a fruit like pomegranate, hormones and inflammation, creates a biological environment where healing becomes possible. Now, we'll zoom out from the cellular level and talk about something more practical. How to actually incorporate pomegranate into your daily routine in a way that's sustainable, effective, and doesn't spike your blood sugar. Let's make this real. How do you actually integrate pomegranate into your day in a way that's simple, sustainable, and supported by science? Because knowing something helps is one thing. Applying it consistently in a way that works with your biology, that's where the transformation happens. Here's the first truth. Not all pomegranate products are created equal. A lot of what's sold in supermarkets under the label pomegranate juice is diluted, sweetened, or heat pasteurized to the point where the polyphenols, the compounds that do the real work, are barely present. The goal is not just to consume pomegranate. The goal is to deliver its active compounds to your system in the right form at the right time. So let's start with the 3 most effective ways to use pomegranate for prostate health. Choose 100% pure, cold-pressed pomegranate juice. Look for dark, rich color that indicates higher polyphenol content. Drink it with a meal to avoid sharp blood sugar spikes. This also improves absorption of fat-soluble antioxidants. The seeds inside the fruit, those little red gems, are rich in fiber and elagitannins. They also slow sugar absorption compared to juice. Add them to a protein-rich breakfast, oatmeal, or Greek yogurt extract supplements. If convenience or sugar intake is an issue, supplements offer a highly concentrated dose of the active ingredients. Look for products that are third-party tested and standardized for punic alligins or ellagic acid. Now, let's talk timing. Morning or mid-morning is ideal for juice or fruit intake. Why? Because your insulin sensitivity is highest earlier in the day, meaning your body is better able to handle the natural sugars without a blood sugar crash. This is especially important for men managing metabolic issues or insulin resistance, which often accompany prostate problems. Want to amplify the effect? Combine pomegranate with omega-3 fats like a few walnuts, chia seeds, or a teaspoon of flax oil. These fats support the absorption of fat-soluble antioxidants and add their own anti-inflammatory benefits to the mix. And here's a powerful protocol to try. 30-day reset for prostate and energy morning, 6 to 8 azas, pomegranate juice plus 5 to 10 walnuts. Lunch, include cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or kale. These support hormone detox pathways. Evening, optional pomegranate extract capsule, if not using juice in the morning. Daily, probiotic-rich food or supplement to support gut conversion into urolithins. A few common mistakes to avoid. Don't overdo it. More is not better. Excessive juice consumption, especially beyond 12 OZs daily, may lead to unnecessary sugar intake and diminish the long-term benefit. Don't pair it with ultra-processed carbs. This spikes blood glucose and blunts the antioxidant response. Don't rely on pomegranate alone. It's a tool, not a replacement for sleep, movement, or a low-inflammatory diet. And here's something motivating. In a 2014 randomized trial, men with elevated PSA levels who took pomegranate extract daily for 12 months experienced significantly slower PSA progression compared to placebo. In other words, the benefits build with time, but only if you stay consistent. If this kind of daily science-backed protocol is resonating with you, tap the subscribe button, tap the subject AI Unlimited, and let's take a deep dive into. We're building a community of people who want to make long-term health changes, one intelligent choice at a time. Now, we'll compare pomegranate to conventional prostate medications, where it stands up, where it doesn't, and how it can work with your doctor, not against your treatment plan. Let's address a common and completely valid question. If pomegranate is so effective, why isn't it prescribed like a medication? It's important to acknowledge that pharmaceutical drugs like finasteride, tutasteride, and tamsulosin have been widely used for years with measurable results in reducing prostate volume and improving urinary flow. They work, but at a cost. For example, finasteride works by blocking the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, reducing the conversion of testosterone to DHT. That, in turn, slows prostate growth. However, side effects are common. Erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, depression, even long-term hormonal disruption in some men. Tamsulosin, another common drug, helps by relaxing smooth muscle in the bladder and prostate, making urination easier. But it can cause dizziness, fatigue, and even difficulty with ejaculation. So, where does pomegranate fit into this? Here's what the research shows. While pomegranate doesn't act as aggressively as prescription drugs, it mimics many of the same biological effects, often without the side effects. Let's look at a few head-to-head comparisons. Hormonal modulation. Both finasteride and pomegranate affect DHT, but by different means. Drugs block the enzyme completely. Pomegranate modulates it, reducing excessive conversion without shutting the system down. This may explain why studies on pomegranate report improvements in PSA levels and inflammation without the common sexual side effects of medications. Inflammation control, most pharmaceuticals don't directly reduce inflammation, they manage symptoms. But chronic inflammation is a root cause of prostate issues. Pomegranate attacks that problem head on. In a 2013 study, published in Prostate Cancer and Prostatic Diseases, men who consumed pomegranate extract showed significant reductions in oxidative stress markers and inflammatory cytokines. That's a long-term win, not just a short-term fix. Pomegranate works across multiple systems, improves endothelial function, supporting heart and blood flow, enhances testosterone levels naturally, supports cognitive performance through antioxidant mechanisms. This matters because men with prostate issues often deal with more than one problem: energy dips, poor sleep, rising blood pressure, metabolic slowdowns. Addressing the prostate in isolation is not enough. Not enough. You need a systems-wide strategy. That's where pomegranate shines. Here's a practical framework to follow. If you're currently on medication, do not stop it without medical supervision. But you can begin integrating pomegranate as a complementary strategy, ideally in conversation with your physician or urologist. A simple phrase to use with your doctor might be, "I've been reading about pomegranate's effects on inflammation and hormone balance. Would you be open to me incorporating that as part of a lifestyle-based plan?" Many forward-thinking physicians welcome natural adjuncts, especially when backed by real data. And for men not yet on medication or on the cusp of mild BPH symptoms, pomegranate can act as a frontline prevention tool. Think of it as a first-tier intervention, a nutritional nudge that supports your body's self-regulation before drugs are even needed. Of course, lifestyle still matters. A sedentary lifestyle, high-sugar diet, chronic stress, and poor sleep will undo any supplement or protocol. Pomegranate works best in a well-aligned system, one where your habits support your physiology, not fight against it. You know, when we come up with, whether it's mindfulness, copious amounts of phosphate and protein, there are a lot of tools out there that will help make you more consistent and higher vitality, and that's effective. Now, we'll explore one more overlooked angle, the emotional and neurological side of prostate dysfunction, and how your mindset, mood, and daily stress response can influence outcomes more than most people realize. When we talk about prostate health, we often focus on the biological, hormones, inflammation, cell growth, but there's another layer just as critical. What's happening in your brain and nervous system? Here's what the research shows. Chronic stress, especially the kind that's low grade and ongoing, directly impacts prostate function through a series of interconnected biological systems. One of the key players here is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis. This is your body's central stress response system. When you're under prolonged stress, whether from work, relationships, financial pressure, or even unspoken fears about aging and masculinity, your brain releases more cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. And high cortisol levels over time do two very specific things relevant to prostate health. They increase systemic inflammation. Cortisol disrupts immune regulation and promotes a pro-inflammatory state, especially in tissues that are already vulnerable, like the prostate. And cortisol disrupts immune regulation and promotes a pro-inflammatory state, especially in tissues that are already vulnerable, like the prostate. They disrupt testosterone production. High cortisol suppresses the release of luteinizing hormone, LH, the signal from your brain that tells your body to make testosterone. Lower testosterone, higher DHT conversion, and a more inflamed environment. That's a recipe for accelerated prostate growth. There's also a neurological angle. The pelvic floor and bladder are tightly connected to the autonomic nervous system, the same system that governs your fight or flight response. This is why prostate issues are often accompanied by increased urinary urgency or nighttime urination, especially during times of stress or emotional conflict. A 2020 study published in Psychoneuroendocrinology found that men with chronic prostatitis symptoms had significantly higher levels of perceived stress, anxiety, and disrupted sleep patterns. The takeaway? Your emotional state isn't separate from your prostate. It's deeply intertwined. But here's the empowering part. You can influence this system profoundly. Let's talk about tools. Tool 1, diaphragmatic breathing protocol. 10 minutes daily. Start or end your day with 10 minutes of slow, deep belly breathing in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 2, out for 6. This activates your vagus nerve, which turns off the stress response and improves blood flow to the pelvic region. Tool 2, guided relaxation with biofeedback. Using simple biofeedback apps or guided body scans, many are free, you can bring awareness to the pelvic floor, reduce subconscious muscle tension, and restore nervous system balance. This has shown promising results in men with urinary dysfunction and chronic pelvic pain. Tool 3, reframe the narrative. Aging is not decay, it's adaptation. When men reframe prostate challenges as signals, not failures, they often engage with lifestyle changes more consistently. This mindset shift activates what researchers call approach motivation rather than avoidance, which is linked to better long-term outcomes. And don't underestimate the power of connection. Loneliness and emotional isolation are also biological stressors. Engaging in community, meaningful conversation, or even group health activities like a walking group or men's health forum can have anti-inflammatory, testosterone supportive effects. Yes, connection changes chemistry. To tie it back to pomegranate, while the fruit works on your biology, your mindset is what determines whether that biology flourishes or flounders. You can drink all the juice in the world, but if you're living in a constant stress state, physically or emotionally, you're fighting uphill. So as you focus on protocols and nutrients, also invest in your emotional regulation, your stress resilience, and your inner narrative, because healing the prostate isn't just about shrinking a gland. It's about reclaiming vitality, calm, and control from the inside out. Let's wrap it all together, the biology, the protocols, the psychology, into one empowering challenge you can take on today to start changing your health, one smart step at a time. Let's take a moment to step back and really reflect on what you've just learned. We began with a simple fruit, the pomegranate. Not exotic, not rare, but quietly powerful. And as we unfolded the science, it became clear. This isn't just about fruit. It's about how the right choices, applied consistently, can change the entire trajectory of your health. We saw how chronic inflammation, not just aging, plays a central role in prostate enlargement, and how the anti-inflammatory compounds in pomegranate, punicalagins, ellagic acid, and their downstream metabolites like urolithin A can disrupt that cycle at the cellular level. We explored how pomegranate modulates hormone balance, especially the testosterone to DHT conversion, without shutting down the system like pharmaceuticals often do. Instead, it works with your body, enhancing, not overriding. You learn that its impact goes even deeper, supporting mitochondrial health, protecting your cells from oxidative stress, and cleaning out dysfunctional energy systems. That's not just prostate protection, that's systemic longevity support. And we grounded this in action. Daily protocols for juice, arils, or extracts, optimal timing, microbiome support, food pairings, and even how to approach these habits in partnership with your doctor if you're currently on medication. But perhaps the most important insight came toward the end, that your prostate doesn't operate in isolation. It's wired into your stress system, your emotional health, your nervous system. This is why stress reduction, breath work, mindset, community isn't a luxury. It's part of the protocol. And now the question is this: what will you do with this knowledge? Because knowledge without action changes nothing. But even small actions done consistently shift biology, they shift outcomes. So here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, add pomegranate to your routine in a form that works for you: juice, fruit, or extract. Start small and stay consistent. Pair it with 10 minutes of daily breath work and one meaningful change to your evening routine, like a walk, better sleep hygiene, or reducing processed food at dinner. Track how you feel. Notice your energy, your focus, your sleep, your mood. These are the markers that tell you something's working long before a lab result does. And remember this: your body wants to heal. It is built for adaptation. What it needs most is a consistent signal, a message that says, I'm paying attention now. I'm showing up. Let's rebuild. If this message resonated, consider subscribing. This channel is about science that empowers, not fear-based hacks or hype. Here, we build real tools grounded in neuroscience, physiology, and psychology that help you live with strength and clarity. Leave a comment below if you're starting the 30-day pomegranate challenge. Tell us which form you're using and how you're supporting your body in other ways. This community is growing, and your voice adds to its strength. And if this video helped you, give it a like. It helps more people find this kind of content. People who, like you, are ready to take their health into their own hands. Your future self, stronger, clearer, more vibrant, is waiting. Let's meet him, one smart choice at a time.